and welcome to episode 127 for Tuesday, December 16th, 2014. My name is Rainbow Plasma. I'm the host and organizer of this podcast, and today I'm joined by...
Burnda1, the special guest coordinator, and this week, the editor.
I'm Flutterguy317, and I'm the media manager for the podcast.
And I'm Atmos Spock. I do the questions and the DeviantArt and the email and stuff.
And in addition to that, we have a very special guest. So, Burned, why don't you introduce our special guest for this week?
This week, we are actually very honored to have back on the show the very fabulous WhiteDiamonds. So thank you again for joining us a second time.
Oh, thank you. You're so incredibly sweet. It is my pleasure to be here. Thank you, gentlemen, for having me.
You're welcome.
It has been, it's funny, we talked for what feels like a couple of hours before this podcast started because of a couple of delays, but we talked a little bit about how long it's been since you've been on this show. It's been quite a while.
It has been. I hadn't realized it, but 2012 does sound about right. So
Yeah. It's been over 2 years. You were our 19th episode, I believe, and now it's 127. That is, wow, quite the time difference.
I know, and congratulations to you on that milestone that you've made it this far.
Oh, thanks.
You're welcome. Oh, and may I say to your listenership that I must apologize for my sickly-sounding voice. I am unfortunately recovering from a cold, but I am happy to be here nevertheless.
We all hope you feel better.
You sound fabulous as always.
It's true. It's true. I'm sure they'll all agree that you sound perfectly fine. I'm not sure how you're feeling, but you sound great. And from a podcast perspective, audio is really important to us, so that's great.
Thank you so very much.
Saying that, though, we do hope that you feel better.
Thank you. I'm slowly but surely getting better.
So we have something to talk about because we'll be talking for quite a while about your art and all the new things and exciting things that you're doing and the differences between 2 years ago and now. We did have some stuff to talk about beforehand. So as was announced, yesterday as of recording, but 5 days ago, I guess, or last Thursday when this is airing, EFN, Everfree Network, the network that we have been on and kind of been associated with for the last 2.5 years since this show started, they're actually closing down on January 1st. So that was announced yesterday by Final Draft that, there was a lot of reasons behind it, and we are not the people to talk about that, but we just wanted to take this opportunity to thank everyone at EFN for, all of their contributions. Our show would not exist if it wasn't for the people at EFN recommending us to have a show and pushing us and giving us a platform to speak. So, on behalf of the entire Cutie Art Crusaders, congratulations on a successful 3 or 4 years, and best of luck to everyone at EFN going forward.
What he said.
Mm-hmm. We would not be a thing if it wasn't for EFN, and we wouldn't have done all the fabulous things we've done and met all the fabulous people that we've met, like yourself, WhiteDiamonds.
Mm-hmm.
So
Thank you, and thank them.
That would not happen. So
that is true.
In terms of our association with EFN over the last little bit has been less and less as we've been kind of going off on our own. All of our episodes are posted on our own YouTube channel now, and we've been posting stuff more and more on our own, associating things like Twitter. So the change will not be that big for us. Of course, we're going to continue, regardless of the state of EFN. We're going to keep going. And the only thing that will be changing is the streaming, kind of the live stream. So as a lot of people know, we love to premiere our episodes every single week on EFN's live stream where we can interact with viewers and then later release it on YouTube. And so we will be working on getting a new streaming service up for that. Initial thoughts is probably going to be Picarto. But we will finalize all of that before January 1st, before we kind of transition to that, and we'll give you guys lots of advance notice. So we hope all of you who come out to the live streams on EFN will join us and make the transition over to wherever our new streaming location is, because we're going to keep doing that as well.
Yeah, if you need a link to the Picard channel that we use, it'll be in the description for you.
Yes,
yeah.
It should be. It'll have to be added to the plugs actually now.
Yeah, I know.
Yeah.
Great, and I just created that new
Yeah.
I mean, we kind of hate to see this because EFN was such a fantastic community for us, and like the others have said, it was really a great platform for us to kind of springboard off of and we've gotten to see and do so many great things, but we don't want to stop giving back to the community. So we're going to keep doing this for as long as we can. And, all of our episodes will be up on YouTube and streaming and stuff. So
yeah. So if you haven't followed us and you want to keep up with us post EFN, then obviously keep listening, and we've got tons of plugs at the end that we can tell you all about, our social media and things like that. But obviously heading over to our YouTube, youtube.com/Cutie Art Crusaders, and that's where all the fantastic stuff will be. But you know what? Enough about the sad and more about the happy. And your icon, WhiteDiamonds, is just the happiest thing. So
it just loaded for me.
Let's go with that.
yay!
Hey!
I needed something to overcompensate for my weakened state currently, so I chose the happiest pony I had, I think.
Well, that
in
is
my
an
artwork.
incredibly happy pony. Bernd, you're gonna have to put up the full piece on the screen there.
Yeah.
Will do.
That's great.
So
That's great.
before we get started, in case people don't know who you are, because I guess you're kind of you're a small artist in some niche community. No, everyone knows who you are. But in case someone doesn't know who you are, could you just tell us a little bit about yourself, what you do?
A little bit about myself, what I do in the fandom. Well, I've been involved with this fandom on and off in a way since season 1, I think. I think I started watching the show during the end of the airing of the first season, and I think I started making fan art initially way back then, and I believe it was September was the first time. And I love the show, and I love creating fan art. I do work as an artist in my offline life as well, and also in not so glamorous jobs, but we won't need to talk about that. But yes, I've recently gotten back into doing fan art. I decided I wanted to be more involved with the fandom again, and it's kind of like a third job at this point, but I'm perfectly okay with that. It brings me joy.
We're so happy that you're doing it.
Yeah, no, it's great, and it gives us an excuse to have you back on.
Hurrah!
So any excuse really. So
I am happy to be here.
So it has been 2 years since we last talked, and so since then, in the last 2 years, what has changed for you? I know that a lot has kind of happened to you, and you had a little break there in the middle. But do you want to just describe kind of the last 2 years since people might have seen your last interview?
Do you mean as personally, or like what's kept me away? I know I've been away.
Well, let's talk more general, because we can get to the reason why you're away. But what has happened to you in the last 2 years? It's been a long time, so let's not focus just on the negative of you being away, but what has happened to you? Life has moved on, I'm assuming.
It has in a way. I mean, I've moved house a lot. I've had health issues. I've had mostly I work a lot. I work a great deal. I do work 2, sometimes 3. It's sans the blog, 2, sometimes 3 jobs. I teach occasionally on the side here and there. So I'm a very busy person. Ponies are always something that I've always kept up with the fandom, even if I haven't been actively participating, and I've always wanted to do more. And then I've mulled over the idea of having a Tumblr actually for a pretty long time. I started thinking about it probably about a year ago. And I just thought, I'm so busy, I don't have any time. And, anybody who followed my art, maybe they felt lucky, if I put up 3, 4, 5 things a year or something. It got to the point I wasn't very active. So I just decided that if I really did want to be involved again, which I did, that I needed to commit myself and do something. And then I thought, well, I didn't really feel like doing an Ask blog. So I thought maybe just a daily art blog. I was inspired by WhiteDiamonds in this instance, by the very talented Carpet Shark. So
Cool.
I have to thank her for inspiring me in that regard.
That's great. It was a great daily.
Oh, it was
Tumblr,
great. It's so adorable. So
Yes.
cute.
Yeah.
Very much so. It's such a shame that she had to stop, but life does sometimes get in the way.
It does. And
So
happens.
So your blog is called Rarijack-Daily,
Yes.
for those who don't know.
Yes, it is.
And it features one of my favorite pairings on the show, Applejack and Rarity. And they get into all sorts of shenanigans.
They do.
And it's absolutely adorable.
Well, thank you. I like to think that's all due to the ponies, but I try to do my part also.
Well, so we are already very aware, knowing you know, the motivation behind this, but you know, for those who might not be aware, you know, what was your motivation behind creating specifically Rarijack as your daily Tumblr?
Well, when I was thinking about all this and deciding what sort of Tumblr I wanted to make, originally I thought maybe a character ask blog, as I believe I mentioned, and I thought, well, I'm not sure I really want to be, you know, have that sort of obligation, you know, that I need to stick to, you know, just questions and answers and things like that. I'd like to have a little more freedom with what I do, and I wanted to make sure it was something that would continually inspire me and give me something to draw. And for whatever bizarre reasons that may be, those ponies have never ceased to inspire me. And so I thought, well, you know, I never get sick of drawing, you know, ponies in general, and certainly not these characters. So and there's a lot of material that exists in canon, you know, episode content, comic books, whatever that I could draw on for inspiration. And I just thought, well, we'll just try it and see how it goes. And actually, before I even started drawing, I decided to make a list of ideas and themes to make sure, you know, that I wouldn't run out of material. And I think the numbered list I worked on and off over the course of maybe a week at most, I think I got up to about 350 ideas. And I said, oh, well,
Wow.
I guess there's no shortage of inspiration. So this seems like something I can manage then. So let's just go with it and see how it works out.
Wow, that is a lot of ideas.
Yeah.
That's a year at one a day.
Yes, it is. So I thought, well,
Wow.
and then considering, you know, what canon material would be coming out and maybe, you know, fanon that would inspire me, stories and whatnot, I thought, well, I'm sure that's plenty to go on then.
Right.
So,
Well, it's the perfect duo because they're good friends, but they do fight sometimes because they have like opposite personalities. So I'm sure you can come up with a ton of ideas to kind of go off of both of those points.
absolutely. I think that's the appeal, you know, whatever somebody thinks about that ship, and that's the whole thing. It's not just, you know, people see the name or whatever and they go, oh, you know, this is just a shipping blog. Well, I specifically wanted to sort of avoid that when I started this because, yes, I mean that the name Rarijack-Daily, I guess, implies shipping because people generally think of that kind of portmanteau as like, oh, it means, you know, specifically a ship, like Brangelina or something. But I know, horrible reference there. But first thing that popped into my mind, forgive me. But anyway, it doesn't necessarily have to be interpreted that way, though. And I mean, I've never... Yes, in my own mind, obviously, I may be thinking of it a certain way when I'm drawing it, but as far as a viewer, you know, to interpret things, I never really draw anything that goes outside the tone of the show. I try to keep it there, and you know, if people like to interpret things completely platonic fashion, I think it works perfectly. At least I try to keep it that way. So I like to think that there's some appeal for everybody. And yes,
there's relationships and friendships as well, you know?
Yes, absolutely. And just the characters, however you like to interpret the pairing, have a very entertaining relationship, which I think is why, as time has gone on, especially we see them paired up more and more together, you know, in the show and things. It's because they're funny. They're friends. They're good friends. They obviously enjoy each other's company and like to spend time together, but they're so incredibly different that it just, one or both frequently get taken out of a comfort zone, and there's comedy potential there. And it's entertaining. So I thought, well, you know, and then, you know, every now and then I can do something cute or sweet or whatever. There's just plenty of room to do all different sorts of ideas and themes with these two. So it seemed like a pretty safe bet.
Well, it came out great, and I know a lot of people love it. So evidently, there was a lot of hiding Rarijack fans because they've certainly come out in droves now.
I've seen so much of it recently. It's kind of amazing.
Well, I'm sure that you did some inspiration for that. When you think back to the impact that Twilight Daily had for the increase in Twilight and in these daily Tumblr blogs, which weren't really a thing before it, you know, I wouldn't be surprised if you had inspired some people to perhaps do some Rarijack things.
Perhaps so. And if so, I'm honored. If I can ever inspire anybody, that is, I've said it before, that is the absolute highest compliment I could ever receive. But yes, thank you.
Well, I mean, you were pretty inspirational to us. I mean, that's originally 2 years ago. That's why we had asked you on the show, because you had been some of the first basically fan art that we became passionate about, or fan art that we were exposed to when we kind of started. Because when we started the show, we were all still pretty fresh in the fandom. In fact, I remember the first piece that I fell in love with by you. I think we brought it up on, 2 years ago, but it was what is it? It was Pinkie Pie hugging Rainbow
Oh,
Dash.
yes. That is one of the most infamous, as it may be, or whatever, famous pictures I've done. I mean, and it's so, I wish I can go back and kind of redo it and make it bigger and better quality, but back then I just used to do those things, so quickly. I'd get an idea and I'd doodle it out. But yep, that picture it will probably surpass me. Everybody seems to have seen that one, so.
Yes, it's very well. It's as strange as it is to sound. It sounds quite dramatic, but it's a part of the fandom's history in a way. It becomes an idea that is almost greater than anybody who participated in it. It just becomes its own entity almost. Takes off so much.
Well, you did kind of redo it with that one, the Say Cheese Dashy.
I sort of did. I was like, I feel bad to go back and totally redraw this, but I'll do another take with these two because, they have an entertaining dynamic also. I mean, Pinkie obviously can bring that out in any pony, but it's funny with Rainbow Dash because she's, so grouchy.
Seems so initially against it.
She's so grouchy around Pinkie Pie that when, they get that little kind of interaction, it's fun. It's cute.
Yeah, absolutely. Speaking of inspiration, I wanted to bring up something that was, personal for us that I think you helped inspire, and I don't think a lot of us have quite realized it. I know that when we started on the fandom, whatever, 3 years ago or 2.5 years ago or whatever it is, a long time ago, I don't think any of the four of us were particularly warm to Rarity at first. I think people would find this for Rarity and for Rainbow Dash being such extreme personalities that you either kind of click or it's harder to find that kind of clicking with the personality. And so, a lot of us, and I'm sure other people out there feel the same way, didn't really click at first with Rarity. And something that I think that you have inspired in at least me is I distinctly remember talking to you 2 years ago and having such a wonderful time that I think it bled over into my love of Rarity because you are Rarity the person.
Well, thank you for thinking so. Rarity and I understand each other is the best way I can put that.
Absolutely. And so
understand
you kind of showed that to me, and ever since I remembered that was around the time where I was watching the show and she started to grow on me, and now she's, of course, it's great to see her just as much as any other character. So thank you for inspiring me by carrying on the spirit of Rarity.
Oh, well, thank you for that fantastic compliment. I don't know. I understand what you were saying, and especially I think, obviously, me being female in this fandom, and, guess what? I do sew, and I do draw, and I do all these things, and I do love going to Sephora. My gosh, best makeup. And I get excited about stuff like that, but I understand for most of the fandom, Rarity probably is difficult to relate to, but it's I don't know. For me, I've always seen her as a warm character. I mean, she has her quirks and she absolutely has her faults. But at the end of the day, she always does try to do the right thing. And I find her a very humorous character also. She's silly, and she might not like to think that she's silly, but she absolutely is sometimes. So.
Well,
and it's funny how we all see characters in different ways, right?
That's probably
and it's
very
an interesting kind of character trait of her is that like she's so refined and like so into these like posh things and stuff, but in the end, like she's just one of the main six. Like she has fun, and despite what she may think, like she's not that different from Applejack or any of the others.
Not really, not at all.
Yeah.
And I think that's a wonderful thing. She's not afraid to get her hooves dirty when she needs to.
I think that kind of relates back to what I'm saying about how it kind of grows on you over time. And it's funny because you mentioned those kind of traits that you saw in Rarity, and obviously being of a similar kind of personality. Yeah, I find it very relatable because someone that I immediately attached to is Rainbow Dash as being kind of like loud and outspoken but fiercely loyal. And that was something that kind of related with me. And it's funny because I think she's also another character that is quite very polarizing at times.
Yes, indeed.
And so I think it's very similar. You get these kind of extreme, extravagant personalities that are not reserved. She's reserved in her own ways, but Rarity's personality is anything but at times.
Right. I understand. So. I think you're absolutely right. And it's understandable. A lot of times first impressions, they are what define, are in our minds, somebody, and then I guess once you get to know somebody, and Rainbow Dash is one of those characters, and actually I guess Rarity is sort of the same way. They want you to perceive them a certain way, and it's once you've actually spent time with them and realize that there's so much more going on underneath, and that's some of us are like that in real life also, I think. So
Absolutely.
I wanted to bring up your latest piece on your blog, which I find hilarious. It is obviously Rarity and Applejack, and Rarity has stolen or maybe borrowed Applejack's hat. Yeah. And Applejack seems to have quite the nice coiffure.
Yes.
I love these swapping. Someone did it. Oh gosh, a year ago. Someone on DeviantArt did this whole. They kept swapping the manes of the colors.
I think I saw those. They were vectors, right? Yes,
yeah,
I did see those.
They're great. I love those.
Oh yeah, this.
I like how you.
Yes, I'm sorry. Continue.
Sorry, I was gonna say I like how you put their own little personal spin on each of their haircuts. Like they swapped haircuts, but Rarity's hair is still curly.
Yes.
Yeah.
Applejack has a little bit hair sticking up right above her left eye there.
Yeah, and I mean that's the thing. This is not at all a unique or original idea. This one was one I'd had on that lengthy list of concepts I knew I'd get to eventually. I thought it was sort of a generic idea because it's been done before. And this is one of those pictures. This happens to me so often. If it's an idea, I sit there and go, "Gosh, this is really silly. I wonder if I should even draw this." That's almost guaranteed to be one of my most successful ideas. Almost always happens. A similar one was a Rainbow Rocks inspired Rarity in a Daft Punk costume. I remember I consulted my good friend Harwick in the fandom, and I said, "Do you even think I should do this, because it's so ridiculous?" He's like, "Oh, well, I'm sure you could do a good job with it." And lo and behold, it was, I think, before this one, maybe it still is my most popular one I've done to date. So go figure. But
Sometimes
yes,
that happens.
In my mind, yes, they do have very different hair types. Applejack has thick, beautiful, lovely hair that she might not show off as she should, do. But yeah, her hair's thicker, and Rarity's does try to stubbornly curl no matter what. So
even if she tries to throw it around a bit.
Yes, absolutely.
So you mentioned that some of your pieces were, the ones that you thought were the most ridiculous were the ones that end up being popular. But you also had a lot of pieces that you were mentioning to us that some of your favorites were the ones that didn't quite get as many views or notes or whatever the heck Tumblr uses anyways.
Yeah, no, that seems to be the case. The ones that when I draw something, if I'm drawing it and I go, "Gosh, I kind of really like the way this is coming out," or this is perfect and it's better than the way I originally saw it in my head, and I'm all happy with it and I put it up, and chances are, and I've expected at this point, that those are the ones that are never going to do very well, and I'm okay with that. Relatively speaking, they're never going to take off is the way that some of the others do, and it is what it is.
Right.
I find it actually very amusing. So.
Yeah, I think the fandom likes to have laughs, and so anything that's like kind of silly or like kind of off key a little bit, like goofy,
yeah,
they'll kind of stick to.
Yeah.
So.
That's probably very true. And I don't mind, but it's funny. I remember when I was polling my DeviantArt audience, because I did start uploading these onto my DeviantArt. I have many that I'm very behind and I need to put up a lot, but I've been asking people if they thought I should do that, and everybody said, "Well, why don't you just upload your favorites?" A lot of people said that. It's like, no, that's probably a bad idea. I'm sure you guys don't want my favorites on here. You'll all be very disappointed, so let's not do that.
Nonsense.
Well, I know you mentioned the pirate picture.
Yeah, that one.
Where,
I liked that
which
one.
you really enjoyed.
I
Yeah.
like that one. That one didn't actually do too badly. Hooray.
Yay.
Oh. But
It's cute though. Rarity is all gung ho, like, you know, and Applejack is nervous.
What are those
and
characters
growing.
called? The ones that swab the poop deck.
oh yeah, her little somebody I think at one point had commented on this on the Tumblr or something. It said like Rara Hook and Appleshmee, you know, like Captain Hook. I'm like, oh gosh, they do kind of look like that. I didn't even plan that, but now that you mention it. But yeah, Rarity's. I mean, and everybody's going, oh, Applejack's rowing the wrong way. And it's like, oh, actually, she's not. Rarity's just changing direction on her. Not this way. So, but that was one of those ideas. My friend, one of my very good fandom friends, he's not so much active anymore these days, but the author, Ponydora Prancy Pants is his full pen name. But he actually suggested that one to me. I got a text out of the blue that day, and he says, oh, it's International Talk Like a Pirate Day. Pirate ponies. And I thought, well, that's a great idea. Okay, I can do that, I think. And it came together very quickly.
I didn't even notice that was the Talk Like a Pirate Day.
Yeah, it's the outfits that really make it for me.
Yeah. I tend to get carried away when I draw pony clothes. Well, not always, but sometimes I get excited.
I have noticed when you're drawing these things, you always make it as though Rarity is the one that's being all crazy and Applejack's just all, what the heck is going on here?
Frequently, yes. Not always, but I mean, I think that's one of the things that is appealing to me about their interaction is Rarity is the inspired, passionate, what's that
eccentric.
word? Just, very much so, yes. Okay, that absolutely. And Applejack's very down to earth and kind of, keeps her tethered to the earth too.
Right, very grounded. Absolutely,
there's been some, I know I've done some where Applejack is absolutely a silly pony though. It has to be done occasionally.
She has her own song about that too.
She does. She absolutely does.
Wow.
Yeah.
Well, there's one that I wanted to bring up in particular, and this is going to start off a whole list of everybody going, oh, well, I like this one, and I like this one. There was this
I've
one.
got a bunch here in my tabs.
There's this one in particular that I love. You know, there was an alternative cover, I believe, on the comics.
Yes.
And just, you know, over the last 2 years, I've realized through the journey of discovering art that something that really speaks to me is facial expressions, and I will always be the first one out of the four of us to mention the facial expression or if there's something a little bit off about it. And this is just great. I don't know what it is, but it just speaks so much to me, like just the pure joy that I get in this particular one. And the hat looks great too. I mean, come on.
I'm so glad. Thank you. That cover was so adorable, and I thought, oh gosh, I've got to do something with that. I mean, that is just golden.
They're just feeding you ideas.
They are. They really, truly are. I don't even have to ask. They just keep coming. But yes, Rarity is very happy, and Applejack is not sure what she can really say, so she's just going to smile fondly.
I love the color choices here too, because Rarity's all like bright and colorful, and Applejack is very like melancholy, or not really melancholy, but just like
Again, grounded.
Very subdued. She's a little. Well, I mean, she's the Clint Eastwood part on that cover. So, but yeah, it was a fun one to do. It's silly, but you know, they so often are, and that's fun. Silly's not a bad thing.
That's great. That's what people enjoy about a lot of yours.
Yeah,
Rarity's face in that one.
I should have used that for my avatar, my Skype avatar.
There's actually two silly ones with Rarity. Has a cute face that I have here up in my tabs, and the first one is her, I guess, making quite the face at Applejack's hat choices.
Oh yeah, that's an idea I've had at least 2 years, and I remember even mentioning before. I'm like, one of these days I really need to do that. Applejack wearing one of those ridiculous, like those lumberjack hats, you know?
It reminds me of Canada.
Yeah.
I was gonna say
didn't
we
wanna
Canadian
say
to
it.
call.
I didn't want to say it because it makes it sound like all Canadians are lumberjacks, but it does remind me of Canada.
Wait, you mean they aren't?
I mean, yeah, totally. All Canadians are lumberjacks, right?
Okay.
Sorry, I almost out of the country secret.
How was lumberjack school, Max?
Yeah, no, it's great.
Then there's one more, which is another cute face. And these are two examples of Applejack being silly, I suppose.
Oh yes, people love
Yeah, I was
that
gonna
one.
like that one.
I like it. Well,
that was one of those ideas that was not on my list. Every now and then I'm just like, oh, what should I draw tonight? And I sit down and they just happen. And that one just happened. It came out of nowhere.
Well, you mentioned that, when you posted this one up, I believe on DeviantArt, you mentioned that Applejack was probably very curious about magic, and she's always been a bit nervous around it and apprehensive towards it.
Yes.
But I think you hit a note with a lot of people who feel the same way. If
Absolutely.
people would be very curious about that kind of stuff.
Oh, absolutely. I mean, and that's true. I did say that. And I'm sure it's just the plots, whatever. But she's always seemed a little, and maybe it's just because, I mean, it's not like they're very conscious of race so much in Ponyville or whatever as we've seen. But I can't imagine that that's one thing that she's had in the back of her mind. How does a unicorn horn work? So.
Yeah.
I have 2 pictures that I wanted to bring up.
I told you. Everybody's got their list now. Everybody's got their list.
And both of them are related. And they are, firstly...
Oh, yes, those pictures.
Applejack playing with Rarity's tail. And then secondly, Rarity playing with Applejack's tail. And they are just so adorable.
You break my heart.
Well, this is one of those things that kind of like the main swap picture. In my own mind, I've always imagined Applejack has just this really, her hair, even in the cartoon, it looks very thick and fluffy, and she's got this really wonderfully poofy tail. And it always just has looked so enticing to me, even in the Flash animation. But, when I think about this in my mind, I'm like, I just imagine it'd be very silky and thick and, plush and fluffy and all that and be nice. And
it's a pillow.
Yeah, and I mean, maybe it's just, styling gel or whatever. But Rarity's hair, by contrast, unfortunately, looks probably more like mine and not nearly as fluffy and nice. So I would imagine that she would appreciate something like that. And then, every now and then some of these things have a continuation the next day. And I thought, well, I didn't really have anything else to do. Maybe that'd be funny. Who wouldn't want to, spring that tail?
Exactly.
It looks so delightfully, bouncy.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
And look at her face, too. She's just so enthralled with it.
I can imagine Rarity is sitting there and just thinking, like, I normally wouldn't let her do this, but she's having too much fun, so I guess I'll leave her.
Yeah, it's like having a kitten that's just like playing with your toes or something.
Right. You're kind of annoyed, but it's also cute, so.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
All right.
Speaking of
we've gone
cute-
through like everyone's list.
No,
so...
not mine.
Not Joel's.
No,
No,
that's
Joel,
what I was
go
saying.
ahead.
Joel, you're the last one. Please
This
give
one.
us your
I
list.
wanted to bring up this one.
Oh, we've got a DeviantArt link. This is
Oh.
extreme here.
Oh, yes. The Philly ponies.
Mm-hmm.
And I've done some others, and I'm sure there will be more to come of them as fillies.
Good.
But, that's one of those things where, I mean, the picture itself, I'm glad if people just like it. People draw all the main 6 together as fillies, and it's super cute, obviously. Any filly pony fillies are just adorable. But this is one of those things where it's like, well, did they know each other when they were that age? More than likely, if they both grew up in Ponyville together, which they must have known of each other, even if they weren't friends. But, that's one of those headcanon things that my author friend kind of introduced to me. The thought, well, maybe, he likes to imagine that they were all good, the 2 of them were good friends and maybe had a falling out or something. And it's kind of an appealing idea, I guess. But like I said, just as a result, I thought, well, occasionally I'll have to do some filly adventures on this Tumblr.
It is interesting to think about pre-show history. It's something that honestly we've seen a little bit of it. Each character has kind of had their own individual flashback, especially in that one season 1 episode. I don't remember what it's called, but when we get to see when they all get their cutie marks. But there hasn't been too much interaction. There hasn't been, other than that, too much interaction between them when they were younger, because you would imagine that you'd think it would be one of the first episode ideas as to, these 2 ponies grew up in Ponyville, what happened when they were younger.
Well, we
But
did
they never got around to it.
see Rainbow Dash and Fluttershy.
Yes.
To be fair,
Oh yes,
Yes.
you're
quite a
right.
lot of that.
You're right.
They-
I totally forgot about
It
that.
is definitely canon that those 2 have been, friends since they were young. And I mean, it makes you wonder, though. I really wish they would do an episode on that, and hopefully, just my saying that maybe magically will make it so that
If
episode
season
will
5
come
ever
this
actually
season.
happens.
Oh, goodness, yes.
It will. It's just.
So long though. Why? That's the wait. It kills me.
I know. It would be interesting though to see like which pairings like grew up together, or if like they lived nearby but never even knew about each other until they got older.
Well, they seem to. It's when you think back to the very first episode here, when Twilight arrived and they all kind of came together, they did seem to know each other to some capacity. Maybe they didn't connect quite as much as they did after Twilight arrived. Her being the connector of them all, but they obviously knew of each other. They weren't just meeting each other when they went on that first adventure.
I do believe Lauren Faust had said that definitely that the 5 of them were supposed to know each other, whether or not they were close or friends. But they did all know each other, which makes sense. Applejack and Rarity have businesses, and Pinkie, of course, knows everybody. Who wouldn't know of Rainbow Dash if she's around? And Fluttershy, maybe. You could imagine that they might not know her too well if she was,
Right.
always.
Yeah, she's their pest control pony.
Well, they all have pets. Most of them have pets, right?
Yeah.
So, well, there you go. So perhaps casual interactions. So you are planning, just while this link is on DeviantArt, you are planning on trying to upload more to DeviantArt, or what was the conclusion of that journal?
Oh, there is. I just have absolutely no time most of the time. As you gentlemen probably know, I know we've been trying to get this interview something that could happen for at least a month now. So unfortunately, I am just a very busy person. And I wish I had more time. And since I have this opportunity to say so, but yes, if there are comments and things I don't respond to, it is not by my choice. And I am so grateful for all the interest, that people have in my work. And I truly appreciate everything I get. And I still do make an effort to respond to things when I can. Unfortunately, it's not always in the timeline I would like. But I am absolutely grateful. So appreciate it.
Right.
Well, you're very, very busy. So
Unfortunately, I really am. I mean, a lot of times these pictures go up, at midnight or 1 or 2 a.m. Well, unfortunately, when they're coming up at that time, that's when I'm actually finishing them. I usually, a lot of times I do have to draw them when I get home from work, and sometimes I don't even get home until midnight. So, I do what I can. It is a labor of love, so.
Of course.
But
now I got another one.
Oh, go ahead.
Okay, yeah.
Because everybody
got 2. I haven't had 2, but I'll bring up one later.
This one.
I'll find something.
Oh yeah, that one.
The blue flu.
Oh,
this was
not
pre-Tumblr.
Yes, that is pre-Tumblr. That was just Rarity and Applejack because I draw them a lot.
It's true.
This was April 4th.
Yeah.
That one I recently did another. That's why I said in the entry, blue flu again on the Tumblr one I recently did because unfortunately I was sick, so I decided to art imitate life. But this one, yes, it was something that I had meant to do for ages, and had just not gotten around to. But yeah, obviously, the Tumblr one is more simple and cutesy and all that. That's more of the other one's one of my more elaborate coloring jobs. If I actually have time, I like to do coloring like that, but
right.
Fortunately, I don't always.
I like the coloring between the background and the ponies.
On the DeviantArt one?
On the DeviantArt one, yes. The first one.
The greeny, kind of sickly almost.
Yeah, and exactly that. Sickly colors.
Yeah, sickly green. And the snot bubble dripping off Applejack.
Lovely. It seems to be kind of a theme, especially with the Tumblr, to have these kinds of what attracted you to these kinds of kind of painterly, messy, almost like a watercolory backgrounds?
That, my dear, is simple necessity, lack of time. I'm just like, I don't have time to draw a background, so just have some color. Otherwise it'd be all white. And originally I thought about just doing just white backgrounds, but sometimes a little hint of color can accentuate a mood or suggest a certain mood that would not otherwise be there. So I thought, well, at least I can do these splash things. And every now and then, I'll do more of a proper background. Not often enough, probably, but...
See, that's something I'd love to bring up. I was actually waiting to transition to that. Because I remember when we first interviewed you mentioned that you just did the basic kind of splash colors because it was quick. You know, just don't think about it, something nice and dirty.
Yes.
But on your Tumblr specifically, there is kind of like a color scheme. I noticed there's a lot of blues and oranges because there's always like a compliment or something behind the characters.
Yes.
But there are a few pieces on your Tumblr as well that have fabulous backgrounds, and I have a couple here that I wanted to link, and I really, really love this one. It's actually just a sketch background, but it's actually like city, like architecture, and it seems very... very European.
It's name too.
It is. That is actually Manhattan, but it was Manhattan as I think more the original season 1, Lauren Faust version of Manhattan, as opposed to Rarity Takes Manhattan, when it was more modern, Earth-like city. And that picture is, I believe I did write that on the Tumblr, but that one is from a fan fiction, that scene. That my friend had written actually before that Rarity Takes Manhattan came out, where the two of them go there to the city together because Rarity has a fashion show, begs Applejack to go with her because Applejack spent time there and knows the city and whatever. But yes, I had always wanted to draw something from that story because it's a really well written story. He's a really good author, and I would have loved to have been able to finish that that night, but there is no way. I mean, I try to get all these images done, and people do ask me that frequently. So for people who have always wondered, try to keep it to under 3 hours tops for all these entries. Some have been done in about an hour, people have asked me if I'm going to come back and ever finish this one, and I might. It all comes down to time. If I could someday, I would love to.
Well, even just the simplistic background I find I love, like with the blue and going to the orange gradient.
Yes.
And you can kind of see, I can't really tell, but it looks like you sketched everything in pink or purple.
Yes. The sketch, and that's the thing too, the line work for these images is always just one color, and it's just the way that I do the multiply layer that it looks different colors when there's color under it. But yeah, I think it was all like a mauve or maybe a purple. It's hard for me to tell. I don't remember now, offhand. I think, something like that. Purpley mauve, somewhere in there.
I was just going to say, it's the biggest smile I've seen on any Rarity.
I should have used that. No, I'm just... Too many happy Rarities. Can't choose one.
And Applejack's face is great.
I can't believe that you, of all people, would have too many rarities.
Too many happy Rarities to select from. I'm an indecisive person anyway. As my friend at my local cafe always reminds me. Go in there. It takes me 15 minutes to order something.
Everything looks so good.
Oh, they do. They all sound delicious. I can't choose.
You could just swap every day.
I kind of do, actually.
It's kind of like a daily Tumblr, isn't it?
Yes, absolutely.
So, well, that's a good point to talk about here. You talked about how there's so many happy rarities that occasionally you might draw something a little bit different. So we have a couple of either sad or intense pieces here. Let me grab one to give you an example. This one here is kind of Applejack and Rarity in this intense kind of fiery where Applejack is protecting Rarity, and so there's that piece in particular it seems like occasionally you want to step out of the bounds of cute and fun.
I do, and that actually is there we go. That's another fanfic by the same author. That one is a prequel to that other story, or the other one is a sequel. In this scene, and it's so funny you bring this one up, this picture ended up sparking all kinds of controversy. I shouldn't say all kinds, but it did get a reaction that I didn't really expect. Where people are saying, oh, well, what's going on? Rarity's tough. And of course she is. Actually, my good friend Harwick had illustrated another scene from this same fan fiction that was a birthday gift to me several years ago, where both ponies are defending their little sisters, with fire and their lassos and against these timber wolves. This was the scene that took place moments before that, before Rarity finds her courage. In this story, she has a fear of fire, a childhood fear. So she's having a hard time, and Applejack is trying to defend everybody before she gets injured. But I did want to do something, every now and then you got to do something a little dramatic. And again, this was just one of those instances where I kind of just wanted to do some kind of tribute to the story that my friend had written because I enjoyed it. So This lifted directly from the text.
I see.
I feel like this piece is another great example of those fabulous backgrounds too. I mean, you might think it's inherently simple or some, but it's simplicity in like something like this is just awesome. Like I feel like it's a really great background because like you can tell that it was maybe like brushed in or painted.
Yes.
Like some things are quick,
Yes.
but I don't know. It feels really, really nice. I like
I'm
it.
so glad.
Well,
Thank you.
Yeah,
I like how the rope is kind of coming outside the frame
Yes.
too.
Mm-hmm.
Those kind of touches are always really interesting and intriguing on paintings.
Yes.
I always love when artists break the frame like that.
Yeah, it's a really cool, you set up this world, this frame that creates the portal into where you're viewing it. It's almost like it's breaking off of the page to come greet you.
Mm-hmm.
I wish I had, sometimes some of these things that I do every day, there's times that I've had ideas and I'm almost like, wow, I wonder if I wasted that idea because I have a certain idea and there's a certain way I want to do it, and maybe just in the interest of time, I'm not always able to do it the way I'd love to. Like I'd love to make backgrounds like that every day, and really pay attention to my composition. And unfortunately, sometimes just lack of time, or if I'm fatigued or not feeling well, my brain doesn't always work as well, unfortunately. But I try.
Well, there's another piece that has a really awesome like central composition that I had saved. It's the what is the name of this one?
I think it's just November.
But it's on your Tumblr.
Yeah, that's just it was November 1st.
It's an autumn piece, but I really, really liked the painting on like the trees, and it's another example I was grabbing from all those backgrounds, and it's kind of like this upwards, like kind of looking up, spiraling composition. It was really nice.
Yeah, thank you. I'm glad you like it. That was one of those ones that I just, here in Southern California, we get some trees that change color, not quite enough, but I like to explore. I get to live, through these seasons vicariously, with through my ponies. So I'm like, I really wish I'd be out there with a really crispy blue sky and some beautiful trees. So let's have them do that today. So
also, one thing I wanted to point out, it looks like you seem to really love it, but there's a specific brush that it seems like you reuse a lot in like your backgrounds and then like shading and colors, and it looks kind of like a watercolor brush. You can see it on the edges of almost all the like circular composition ones. And it creates a really fabulous effect. And I didn't know if like you had like a set of favorite brushes that you really go to.
This is just in, I use Paint Tool Sci for my art program, and I use all of the default tools in that program. I don't use any, fancy brushes. Nothing's imported. It's all just what comes with the program. And this is the marker tool, is pretty much the only thing I use when I draw these pictures. Every now and then, if I do a blush or something on a character, there might be a little bit usage of airbrush. And occasionally I will maybe blend some things with the actual watercolor, but for the most part, every single thing that I do is just the marker tool. The line work, the coloring. I do the line work with a straight, just a simple circle setting, and then for the coloring, I always use the spread, which creates that kind of blossoming watercolor effect, as you mentioned. It's
interesting.
Just default tools, though.
Looks very natural. That's a great tool.
It is. I love that program. I think we talked about this last time I was on the show. I absolutely adore that program. I would plug that thing all day long to everybody. It's my favorite. I used Photoshop for years, and this thing is it's wonderful.
It's so much better with that inbuilt stabilizer.
It's very user friendly. It's very nice interface.
It's really, really nice for painting.
It really is.
I gotta say that using that brush gives your pieces all like their unique flavor that's kind of specific to you. Because like you don't really see anyone else that has like ponies that look quite like yours do, because yours are adorable and they're colored like you do. And
thank you.
You've definitely built a quite unique style for yourself in how you use specific tools and brushes, and then how like the backgrounds usually share that theme where the edge of it is kind of like watercolored, and then even on some like the shading on the characters, some of that starts coming in again, and it's very painterly, which is something I've been noticing in a lot of your recent Tumblr works, where like the shading and then the backgrounds start looking more like imitating kind of paint and building up on top of each other.
Well, that's lovely, really, to hear that. I just kind of like the softness of it, and also it's kind of quick to be able to do that, because it's like the backgrounds, the splash, the simple things. It's just it's a nice way to apply something quickly and have it look decent in minimal time. Oh yes.
Well, like the one I just linked, I mean, that one doesn't look like it was made in minimal time because there's so many colors. Like, that's kind of one I had
I spent a little more time on that one just because I wanted to properly, draw proper decks here that these ponies are using. I wanted to make sure they were, that the equipment looked pretty accurate. But yeah, that was another one of those things that just came out of absolutely nowhere. And I don't even remember what gave me that idea. It is ridiculous, utterly ridiculous, but it was fun to do.
I love how serious they are in it.
Yeah, they're very serious.
I don't know why.
Serious business. Also, Rarity's DJ face is great.
Yeah, they
I
are.
wouldn't envision her as a DJ, but
No, not at all. Which is, I guess, why it's funny.
Classical remix.
It's one of her dirty secrets. She DJs at night.
Oh gosh.
So, we're talking about the subject matter, I guess, of some of your posts here. We see obviously Rarijack a lot, but occasionally you bring in other people from other ponies, I guess, not people.
Yes.
Main six, family members, otherwise. What would you say, is your favorite person or pony outside of Rarijack to include in this kind of Tumblr experience, to have them interacting with each other?
Well, that's kind of difficult to answer. My favorite. I mean, I think the ones you tend to see the most are probably, the Cutie Art Crusaders, because obviously, it's the Rarity and Applejack's little sisters. And Scootaloo is often in those pictures as well, usually, not always. Sometimes it's just, the two sister pairs. But those give me an excuse to do really ultra cutesy things, and instead of having the older ones being silly, just for themselves, they get to be putting up with the little ones, maybe. Not always, but sometimes. Sometimes they're just sweet and cute. But I actually like the one I did one recently where the Rainbow Dash Pinkie Pie are trying to start a snowball fight, or about to. I actually really love drawing Rainbow Dash. She is one of my favorite characters to draw. I love drawing her. I hate coloring her hair because it's time consuming.
I imagine.
But I do love drawing her. She's a very expressive character too. I find, or I don't know, there's just some appeal to her. But I do like when I get to bring the main six in. It's just sometimes it's difficult to come up with an idea that's just one of them with the two ponies, or maybe just a couple of them without the whole group of six. And it's not that I wouldn't want to do more group of six pictures, it's another one of those time things. I mean, if I could draw pictures of the main six all together, I absolutely would do larger character groups a lot more if I had more time. I really would.
So out of the 350 or so ideas that you wrote down, how many have you done?
Oh gosh, I've done a lot of the pre-existing ideas, and I still have plenty more that are from this list, obviously. But some of my ideas, people ask me occasionally, or have asked me, if there is some sort of narrative behind these entries, and for the most part, no, but to a certain extent, there actually is, which I wouldn't expect anybody other than myself to notice or think about. But there are some entries that I have, there's even some I have sketched that I can't post until I've gotten to a further point in the future. So I feel it wouldn't be right. So I like to try to, there is a certain continuity in that regard.
I noticed like this piece, for instance, where Rarity's looking for Applejack.
Yes.
Which is a most adorable piece ever. And then this piece follows it, which is them being reunited.
Yes.
Is really cute.
Thank you. The first one was obviously, well, and people even asked me that too. What's going on in this picture? They didn't understand, or where could she possibly go? And it was actually, I do put tags on the picture. If it's ever a reference to official content, like an episode, I will tag it as such. And this one was from the last roundup, when the ponies are all looking for Applejack. Of course, most people remember that episode as the Derpy Gate. I shouldn't even say the word, but that sparked that whole thing. But but they are all looking, and there are points in that episode you can see Rarity carrying Applejack's picture around in her teeth, looking for her. So I don't know. It was one of those came out of nowhere ideas, and then the next day, even though you never really saw that in the episode or whatever, I just thought, oh well, that'd be sweet. People felt bad for Rarity in that picture. I should give them a happy reunion after that. And
Yeah.
so
It came out adorable. Especially, I think the picture of them being reunited actually is more adorable just because of the picture before that.
aw, I'm
Of
glad.
her searching. So.
Yeah. It's nice to inject a bit of story.
And Applejack's dirty, and Rarity doesn't even mind that she's dirty.
Yeah.
So,
So-
let's step back here for a second, and I wanted to bring up something that we talked about a little bit before, and that was that you have always wanted to, but never actually gone to a pony convention.
That is true.
So, I mean, do you want to talk about that a little bit? And you want to get out there, but you haven't seen anything yet. So, do you have any plans? I suppose this is a good time to ask because I'm sure people will be curious. But do you have any plans to go to anything?
Oh, this is it. I have privately committed myself, but now I must do so publicly as well. So, all right. Well, I live in Southern California, as people may or may not know. And there had been Equestria LA conventions, which are really not that far from where I live. And for whatever reason or another, busyness as always, I've just never gone to one. But I had promised my personal fandom friends that, okay, the next Equestria convention, absolutely for sure, Los Angeles, I will be there. I promise. And then, of course, right after I said that convention went on hiatus. And I said, oh, well, look what I did. I killed it. I'm so sorry. But now they have recently, well, I don't know, within the last couple months, I think announced, I don't think we have a next convention date, but they have announced that they are bringing it back. So, and I think it's coming back, this coming year, obviously. It's not going to happen before the end of the year. So, so I will be there. I'm not sure if I will be there vending. I'm not sure what I will do, but I will at least be there because I must be there. I have no reason not to be there. I would love to meet people. I would love to interact. I would love to buy more merchandise that I do not need at all.
Oh, but you do need plushies of Rarity and Applejack.
Yes, I did mention that too.
Yeah.
I never
Just
collected
nod and
ponies
smile.
until my friends started, and I pretty much just collect those two, but I have a ridiculous amount of merchandise now. The Equestria-Daily had that poll, I think like a month or two or something ago. Relatively recently, and it was, how much money worth of merchandise do you have? And I'm like, I wonder. And I start adding mentally, and then I'm like, this is confusing, so I started writing it down. And I think I was in the top tier or at least the second tier.
Oh my!
And
Yes.
I do
Wow.
have some other ponies, but most of it, and I have a Spike. I have a really cute Build-A-Bear Spike plush because he was so adorable. I couldn't not buy him. But for the most part, it is orange and white ponies on shelves, and I have a lot of them.
We have
That's adorable.
almost of the rarities.
I love every single one of them. They're all so cute. I've got some great stuff. But yes, I would buy more. If you put it in front of my face, I'm going to buy it. So
I feel like you and Silver Ring Clouds would get along. she also collects all of the rarity toys you can find. Also
you know
ones you
what?
can't get in this country.
yeah, yes, and I'm trying to do that too. And my gosh, I feel really bad that I missed up my opportunity to get the Japanese Rarity and Applejack plushes. But that day will come again. I will have those eventually. I have to.
We've got a couple that I've never seen anywhere else.
I've been to Japan before, and I will go back if I must.
If only to get those plushies.
They are so cute. Something about them.
So-
They look Japanese. They look like, how Japanese fan art tends to have a certain distinctive quality, certain something. Not always, but depending on the artist, tends to be a certain something. And for somehow those plushes have that same look to me. So
Right. Yeah.
they're cute.
So one of the reasons why I wanted to talk about cons a little bit was because I'm a bit evil, you see, and I feel bad for doing
devious.
this, but not really because we're recording right now. So one of the biggest things that I think I want to get you addicted to conventions. I want you to have such a great time that you have to come out to things like BronyCon, so that first of all, so that I can meet you. It would be great to meet you in person, and
I would
it'd
love
be so
to
hard to
meet
do
you.
because unfortunately I can't make it out to Equestria LA. But here's a little motivating factor. Perhaps one day you can have a similar experience to what Bernd and I had, which was meeting the only other person in the world who I would describe as the epitome of rarity herself, which was Tabitha St. Germain.
Miss Tabitha. Oh, and look at you both. Aren't you absolutely adorable? Oh my gosh, you are so cute. Look at her. Oh gosh, this is Yes, I know. I must
You
be.
need to meet her. You
Yes.
guys would get along so well. We had the opportunity. So this picture was taken right after we had kind of a scrum with her with other news people at BronyCon, and she was wonderful there. And I just have the feeling that you two would just get along like I don't even have an analogy.
Very well.
I would be so
So
happy
well.
to talk about baking and gardening and cats and all those things with her because I
We
love all
talked
those
about
things.
baking
Yes.
and gardening and cats
Yeah.
with her. That's exactly what we did.
And
So
I
you
love
fit
those
right in.
things. You don't understand, people. It's so hard. I love those things. People are like, oh gosh, such an old lady. You're going to go home and crochet again with your cats and drink tea? And I say, yes, that's exactly what I'm going to do.
Exactly. So be that a motivator for you. Or maybe she might be there at Equestria LA, but if not, then well maybe you should head out to some of the other cons. And
I
meet
do
some
need to
fabulous
meet
people.
that woman. Do you know my friend went to Everfree Northwest a couple years ago, or I don't know, last year? I think it was a couple years ago. He did get her autograph for me. I had made a Rarity painting, a portrait that is on my DeviantArt. I believe it's right there on my featured deviation. I did a Rarity portrait for her and had prints made, a print made for her. So I know
that's so nice.
he was sweet enough to, since he went, he was sweet enough to take her, a print, and then he did get one signed for me too, and got Kazumi Evans' autograph on there as well. So I have a little bit of Tabitha with me on my wall. But yes, I would love the opportunity to actually meet her someday, of course. She seems like a wonderful person.
Well, if you ever end up in a situation where, say, you're at a BronyCon and Tabitha's there as well, you can count on us to get you two together somehow. We'll try and pull some strings.
You
It
are
will
so
happen.
thoughtful. I would love that. Thank you. And I guess I'll have to send you even more tea or something for that. You're so,
Well,
so
okay.
sweet.
Do you want to talk about tea for a little bit? You mentioned cats. You mentioned gardening. Do you want to mention a little bit about your love of tea?
I do love tea. Well, tea it's just soothing and delicious. I believe I have that stamp on my DeviantArt. Tea makes everything better, and it's true. Especially obviously when one is ill, as myself has been. There's nothing like it. But yes, for people, and now that I think about it, you're right. That was the pre-show conversation. But I'm going to be sending each of these fine gentlemen some tea because I would love to share my favorite varieties with them. So
That is so ridiculously kind of you.
Yes.
not at
very
all.
kind.
You would deserve that and more. But it's the least I can do.
Oh, well, thank
I am very excited to try this tea because from what I hear, from what you've told us, it is fantastic.
Oh, it's delicious,
yeah.
and it's a beautiful. My favorite that I'm drinking, this Gray Moonlight, is a beautiful tea to look at. Also, it's got the violet flowers in it and the big orange pieces of bergamot and everything mixed in this tea. So it almost looks like potpourri, smells like heaven, and it tastes divine, and it will make you feel wonderful.
I swear, every time you come on the show, even last time 2 years ago, it feels like we're talking to Rarity. Like, it feels like, oh, thank you for Rarity for joining us on the Cutie Art Crusaders today.
Rarity and I just understand each other, and I have
It's
to
true.
thank her for making me a fan of this show, because if I never would have seen, it was all that image of this little cartoon unicorn at her tiny little red sewing machine with her little glasses on sewing. I'd seen a couple episodes of the show before that, and it was cute and it was appealing, and it was, it was kind of on in the background when I was doing something else, and then I happened to catch Suited for Success, and it was that episode, and I just said, oh, this is it. This speaks to me on some sort of level, and I understand. I must draw these ponies, so I started drawing ponies. So
Well, it's led you to some pretty great places. Obviously, you've met some great people who've
I
become quite
have.
close friends
I
to you.
absolutely have. This is a
And
wonderful
it's,
fandom, and I'm honestly, it's a sheer pleasure to be involved with this fandom every day.
Just glad. Gotta inject some optimism. Gotta inject some happy thoughts into a bit of a long winter, long hiatus. But
Yes.
but it'll be coming back soon, and we should all be excited about that.
And then eventually, movie. I am so excited about that movie.
Yay!
I would
2017.
absolutely love the opportunity. If anybody out there is looking for pony artists or wants people to help, I know I work a lot, but I would gladly give up any of the jobs I do to do that for a living. Just putting that
Well,
out
there you
there.
go, putting it out there.
I just wanted to throw that out there just because I realized it came up and I thought, I should say that while I'm here.
No, yeah, absolutely.
joking,
you never
but-
know. You never know what could happen, right?
Yeah. It's a bit of a joke, but in all seriousness, I mean, really, wouldn't it be,
But seriously, DHX.
yeah, or even just, even to be, to work on the comics. I mean, to be able to be and honestly, in this fandom, it's not as much of a thing. Because of course we're such an involved fandom, and things that we're creating, the content creators are seeing our work, and to my knowledge they are enjoy it and enjoy interacting with the fandom. So in this, we are lucky in that regard. But yeah, ponies are happiness, and I'm happy to spread that happiness however I can.
That's great. That's great. Well, we have had a great time, and I know that you've definitely made us happy for coming on the show. Unfortunately, we are running up on time. I'm the time master of the podcast, and
Time Lord.
I've let us run over a little bit just because we've had a great time here. But I did want to thank you.
I'm the ramble master. I have more questions.
I know. We do have to cut it off soon.
He's
here,
Mr.
so.
Grumpy Pants because he doesn't let us have any fun.
All right, look here, soldiers. All right. So yeah, I just wanted to take this opportunity to say thank you so much for coming on. We had a delightful time, and obviously this time around we did not run out of questions, and we could keep talking for hours and hours.
Forever.
We even talked for something like 2 hours beforehand. So
We did.
we must do this
My
again
bad.
sometime, and this time we both must promise not to make it 2 years.
Yes. Well, you know what? I'm here, and I know it was a bit of a difficulty making time for this interview, but it was sincerely my pleasure to come on here and speak to you all again. You're all lovely, and I'd be happy to do that any other time. You can always count on me. I will make time.
Definitely. We'll give you plenty of notice.
I have a big question for you.
Yes.
Can you promise us that next time we do an interview with you, it'll be in person?
Well, maybe not the next time, but maybe perhaps promise that at some point.
At some point, I would love to do that. That would be fantastic.
Great. Well, there we go.
That would be amazing.
You're now forced to. I mean, you signed
I
a verbal
know.
contract. I mean,
I walked into that one a while ago.
you walked straight into that. You're trapped now. So, just as a quick little thing, in case people wanted to find you, we've obviously mentioned your Tumblr and your DeviantArt. So, if people want to find you online, if people want to follow your work, where can they find you?
Oh, yes. Well, my Tumblr in question that we've been discussing all this time is Rarijack-Daily .tumblr.com. So there you can find my daily pony updates, daily pony artworks. And my DeviantArt account is linked from that page, but it is WhiteDiamonds Ltd, because without Ltd was already taken, .deviantart.com, I believe.
Yes.
So those are the two places you can find me, and feel free. People are always free to comment, message me, whatever. Again, unfortunately, it may be a while before I can get back, but I do love talking to people, and I'll do my best. I do my best to get back to people.
Well, it's hard sometimes.
It is
definitely
hard, but I absolutely love hearing from people, and it's my pleasure to respond when I have the time and opportunity to do so.
But if you guys enjoy cute pictures of Applejack and or Rarity, then follow her.
Yes, I do
Seriously.
I do draw other ponies on occasion, and hopefully, if I can find the time, you will see other fan arts on my DeviantArt also. But, whenever I can get around to them, but they will come eventually.
Yeah, absolutely. All right. Well, that is basically it from your end. So we're gonna take over here now with our own plugs for our own podcast. So take it away, Joel. You're the plug guy. So do your thing.
I am. Okay, so we have the DeviantArt, which is cutieartcrusaders.deviantart.com. We have the Twitter, which is @cutieartcrusade. We have the Facebook, which is Cutie Art Crusaders on Facebook. I think they might have a slash, I don't know. Cutie Art Crusaders on Facebook. We have the YouTubes, which is youtube.com/cutieartcrusaders, and the Tumblr, which is cutieartcrusaders.tumblr.com. Or is it? Yeah, I think that's right.
And I believe that's everything.
And
The list is getting longer.
the email, which is cutieartcrusaders@gmail.com.
And we may
Have to add
start
Picardo onto
having
that.
to add
Maybe.
Picardo.
Yeah. We'll look at that in the
Which-
future.
Yeah, we'll look at
Yeah.
the
We
future.
still got a couple of weeks.
Yeah, of course, all of this information will be on the screen. So if you're just listening to the audio, then pop your eyes back to the screen there to check out those plugs if you want to check.
Stay
us out.
tuned for the
Anyway,
streaming updates.
Yeah.
Yes.
Absolutely. All right. Well, I think that is everything from our end. Now, we had one final thing that we wanted to talk about quickly. I think Ted, you wanted to talk about it really quick.
Yeah, next week is actually our episode's going to be airing on the 23rd, which is the day before Christmas Eve and 2 days before Christmas. So we wanted to try and get together some sort of Christmassy themed episode. Nothing too big or anything like that, but if anyone wants to send us art that they enjoy, like Christmassy art, or if you wanted to make some Christmassy art and send that in to us, then we'll try and feature that.
Yeah, so you get us that art. Again, whether or not it is a piece of art that you made, or perhaps a piece of art that you found that you thought was really good that we haven't featured before, just make sure to get it to us before the 19th, because we will be recording that Christmas episode on the 19th of December. So make sure to send it to us either on DeviantArt or to our email, and so we can get that and perhaps feature it on the show.
Mm-hmm.
All right. Well, that is everything, guys. I'd like to extend one last final thank you to WhiteDiamonds. Thank you very much for coming on. It was great having you. It's always such a pleasure to talk to you.
Absolutely likewise. Thank you so much for the opportunity, and I was thrilled to speak to all of you. So thank you sincerely.
Again, we'll definitely have to do it sometime soon. Again.
You just let me know, dear. Anytime you like.
Will do. That's
Very
great.
Good.
All right. So, yeah, that's everything for this week. Whether or not you're on the live stream or on YouTube, we love you all the same. My name is Rainbow Plasma.
My name's Burned01.
I'm FlutterGuy317.
And I'm Atmospark.
And WhiteDiamonds. That's me.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And we'll see you guys next week.
Bye. Bye.
Bye.
And there you go. That's a podcast.
Yay.